Okay, so welcome to this week's Reddit Q&A, everyone. Really great suite of questions this week and a couple of really good cases of founders out there just sort of doing their thing, which is really cool. And the first one I do want to shout out is a new website that we've been working alongside and we'll actually be working with next month, Trust MRR. So Trust MRR was founded off the back of the idea that if you want to build in public, then let's be genuine about these conversations. Let's not give founders false not false hope necessarily, but this idea that you can grow from 0 to 10K MRR overnight. There are success stories out there where that is the case, absolutely. But more often than not, it's a 2-year, 3-year grind of getting the foundations right before you start to see that MRR movement. The flip side of that is you want to be seen to be successful. A lot of people like to post the good graphs that go up and to the right. We've already spoken about that. And as a result, you do get some players out there that like to they want to be thought leaders, they want to put it out there, and they'll doctor a graph to show you the positive numbers that they're experiencing. Trust MRR was built so that you could add in your Stripe key, you get an immediate verified net transactions, and in some cases, MRR. So very similar to the way Baremetrics does things and ingesting Stripe data and being able to show you displays. This is more of a verified tick in the box to say, this is my actual revenue. This is actually how I'm growing. And let's talk about it in an honest, open and transparent way. So happy to support a platform like that really sponsors that open building public sort of sentiment and more so the truthful building in public, right? These graphs can't be doctored. They are directly from the Stripe API key. So Trust MRR's out there. This individual's just posted up there and said, hey, quick stats, total revenue, $553. Over the last 30 days, that's been 397. They've got 301 users already over the last 30 days, which is great. 62 paying users and 239 free. Still working hard to get organic traffic. Fixed a bug, not much, but seeing people actually pay for what I built feels amazing. I think that's the key thing there is people are happy to show it that they're like, hey, someone actually gets value from what I've built. Someone actually appreciates the time and the effort I've put in. And hey, anyone got any questions for me how I started out? This is a great example, I think, of a founder just out there doing what they want to be doing, right? They're earning $500, but they're out there saying, hey, let's talk about it and let's see how we go. The other thing I think is interesting is this is essentially a summary of a lot of the other Reddit Q&As we've had. How do I convert free use to paying, right? This individual next week should be posting that question. 239 free users. They've got 62. They're going to want to continue to convert that. Working hard to get organic traffic. What strategies have you used to increase your organic traffic as a solo founder and startup, right? Not an unfamiliar question we've had. And fix the time zone bug. How do you manage a global client base when certain clients want things done on this time and others want this time? Other clients want it in this currency. Other clients want it in this currency. These are all questions that I expect to see from this founder coming up very soon, or this founder who's building in public. I expect them to provide answers to the community about those particular questions that others would have. So great to see people out there doing what they're doing, and I'll be keen to check out that product and see what they're all about. And in the same line,
this user now has homework.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and share with the class next week. It'd be great to see. The next one is very much in the same line. Launched Thursday. Okay, so this was 14 hours ago. So I'm assuming they're just talking about last week. Launched Thursday, 6 signups in 48 hours. 0 of them finished onboarding. Is this normal or am I screwed? I launched I launched my thing live on Thursday night. And after 7 months of building, so that's what I talked about there. This is an overnight success, right? This is 7 months of hard work and build. Did some promo, and on Friday I worked to 1 new user. Booked a call as soon as I could. Had it on Saturday. Got the best on-call comments I could wish for. And then during the weekend, 5 more signups. They're all in a 14-day trial now. After the hype and the weekend, exactly 0 of the 6 I have now finished the 5-step onboarding checklist. Most of them created an account, poked around for a few minutes. I sent a true email written by me. Then I was ghosted. The one I onboarded on Saturday was super excited during the call and said this is exactly what I needed and hasn't logged in since. Now I'm spiraling a bit. Are these just curious tire kickers who will all churn on day 15, or is this completely normal for a brand new tool and I just need to stop panicking? For founders who've actually converted free and trial users to paid, how many of your first 10 to 20 signups actually finished onboarding? What did you do in the first 72 hours to stop them abandoning? At what point did you start personally reaching out versus letting automation do the work? Any aha moments, tips or tricks as to like, oh, this is why I need to keep using this, and currently thinking of sending a, hey, noticed you got stuck on step 2, want to hop on a call. Appreciate any reality checks or advice. Okay, so we've got 15 comments here. I won't read the comments yet. I'll give my opinion, and then we'll read the comments and see if that's aligned or not. I think it's a good way of doing things. Last week, I found that to be pretty cool, like where I'd find people that agreed or disagreed to a degree. I love the sentiment of this founder, and the reason I love it is because they are so hyper focused on their customers that they're in tune with them to the point of being overly empathetic almost. I think the problem here is your one tool is their many tool, and what I mean when I say that is that you expect them to be completely focused on the product and the trial and the tour because that's exactly what they needed. They said if they are B2B users, if they are, and again, we don't know what the platform is here, they have a whole host of stuff going on, right? For you, this is your everything at the moment. 5 new customers over the weekend, they are your life. For that user, it's just another trial, right? It's just another platform I've got in my stack. I'm going to trial it. I might come back to it. I might read your email. If there's nothing compelling at the moment and I'm not dying, I'm not going to sign up straight away, or I'm not going to complete the onboarding. I've got no incentive, right? So I think that's one just reference check there, is to say that you are so focused on this journey because they are your first customers, and so you should be, but don't expect them to have the same motivation that you do. When it comes to funnel, you must understand that your first 5 users that you got here, the first 5 signups, that may well just be the first drop in the ocean of users. And to expect that you would have out of 5, 4 of those convert from like onboarding to paid, you must have a phenomenal product that absolutely solves a pain that is immediate and felt by a lot of people. Understandably, you probably don't. Great that you had a call with someone, and great that you were able to receive that feedback. But again, I had a call with our head of growth this morning, right? And we're coming up in the end of the month. And I said, hey, how are we looking for those that are going to close by the end of the week, essentially? And we'll have at any given time sort of a dozen close to the boat deals that are closing. And then we have our entire funnel of, 100 trials a week sitting in that space. And so to hyper focus on that conversion is one thing, but to understand that that comes with volume as well. As you start to build a funnel, then those 5 will become like irrelevant almost. What I would suggest is, so if we talk about the onboarding piece in particular, I would be more inclined to step back and just watch these users interact with your onboarding flow and collect the data to say why. So you're hyper focused on getting them to finish the onboarding flow that you've developed. But what it's showing you, what the data is starting to tell you, is that onboarding flow isn't being completed, therefore it's not suitable, right? The point about the aha moment, or the moment that matters, is what I talk about when we talk about trial experience in particular, is finding what it is about that customer experience that showed them, oh, this is what you guys do and this is how you do it really well. And I'd suggest you need to go back through that call that you had with the first one that booked it. You mentioned in there that you had, great feedback on that call. What was it about that particular user that they saw in your platform? And then bring that moment forward for all of the trial users, right? Bring that moment of saying, this is exactly what you get from this platform. So I think that's part of the thing there. Watch the onboarding, assess whether it's your idea of what onboarding should be versus what the actual client expects to see and wants to see from that approach. How many of your first 10 to 20 signups actually finished onboarding? Again, this is going to be subjective. What is onboarding, right? You've said you've got 5 stages or 5 steps. By the time they get to step 3, have they seen enough, right? Therefore, they don't complete 4 and 5. Is it that you set your onboarding out over the 14 days, and by the time day 4 comes, they've received a couple of emails, they're just tuned out, they moved on to the next thing, or they're assessing it in the background? Is it the fact that your platform takes time to show value, i.e. you need more data, you need more day-to-day reports to see something of trending? There's a whole heap of unknowns here. So when you say how many completed onboarding, like even when I think of Baremetrics, you sign up for a trial, you connect your payment provider. That's kind of the big first step of the trial. You have to do that to receive any value whatsoever, right? To see any of your metrics, whether you're connecting your Xero, whether you're connecting your Stripe. If you don't do that, you just see a pretty platform with no graphs. Connect it, you unlock all this power to segment down to your customers, actually get value out of it. The first step I want you to do is look at your revenue and your figures and make sure that they are what you expect, right? And that's what our control center does. The first exposure, your control center gives you a summary of all your key SaaS metrics. When you then start to receive onboarding, you'll see your toolkit, how to get the most out of your trial. We then start to dig into individual features and benefits from the additional components of the tool. Have you created a customer segment, right? That's what you need to do to unlock value. Have you enabled recover, right? Are you recovering lost revenue? Have you enabled cancellation insights? Are you able to see why people are leaving you? These are all the things that we then stage out over time. So I wouldn't necessarily say that I expect someone to create customer segments, install recover, install cancellation insights. And if they don't do that, they're not onboarded. Technically, sure, they're not using the full feature suite of the tools, but those particular users maybe don't have a need for those additional functions. Maybe, and this is true for Baremetrics, our core ICP want an easy way to unpack their Stripe data into meaningful customer segments and do something with it, right? And so for me, that customer segmentation piece is probably the moment that matters the most. Being able to show them. So what do we do there? We have the onboarding toolkit, we have the follow-up emails, and then we have calls, right? We have onboarding calls where in which the first thing we do is, hey, let's create a customer segment. What attributes are most valuable to you? The rest of it, they might not use it. So I'd suggest here for this user in particular, when you say actually finished onboarding, do you need them to finish onboarding in order to solve the problem you're offering to solve? Maybe it will be that you're trying to sell them everything. They actually don't need that. What did you do the first 72 hours to stop them abandoning? This is a good one. And this is one that actually Justin Hammond raised in our founders chat previously. He said, we like to view churn over a 30-day sort of rolling window, right? How many users churned in the last month? We also look at to say how many users didn't convert from trial to paid. When in actual fact, the decision to churn or the decision to not continue generally he believes happens in the first sort of 3 minutes, 3 days. Like there's a very shortened period of when that churn decision is made. And so this is actually a really valid question. What do you do in the first 72 hours to stop them abandoning? And I think, again, if we look back at bringing that moment that matters forward so that it can see that, yes, this is the solution for me right now, and then continuing to add value. So whether it is after that first day, the follow-up email is, hey, saw you did X, next step is Y, like continuing to get them in there. In-app notifications, pushing other correspondence to them. If you're in that founder stage, adding them on LinkedIn, right? Doing one-to-one engagement with their brand, their personal brand, their content, whatever it might be. But yeah, in the early days where you do have 5 signups, 5 users, I would be doing absolute one-on-one outbounding and onboarding to keep them engaged over that first 72 hours. As you get further into it and your funnel increases, then yes, there will be a lot of automation that helps you scale with that. And that is emails, in-app signals to say you haven't logged in for the last 24 hours. Here's a reminder. Reports, so proactive reports that show them things from inside the app that they now have available to them to show them what they can do if they log back in. Incentives to log back in as well. Incentives, add a new user, right? Invite your team. Sign up by the end of the week for a 30% discount. Things like that to get them back in there, I think. But yeah, in the early days, it's definitely engaging them one-on-one. And that is the next point. At what point did you start personally reaching out versus letting automation do the work? Do the hard things early. Like you do need to when you're in that space. And I can't speak from this from a pure founder perspective, but when we release a new feature, particularly a big one, just say for like SMS at the moment for Recover, I am talking personally to that account. I'm not just saying, here's how you use SMS. Let me know what you think. I want to have meetings with them. I want to understand how they're using it. I want to get feedback from them individually. Same when we're about to release our HubSpot integration. I'll be meeting with each individual account that activates that HubSpot subscription or the integration to talk to them about how that's being received, how they're using it. So in the early days, I would suggest that you need to be doing absolute one-to-one interaction with those clients because you can, but 2, the value you get from those conversations is going to be immense. So automation comes in later. Do the hard thing early. Do things that don't scale early until you have such a time as you have to. Any aha moment tips or tricks that make people think, oh, this is why I need to keep using this. Yeah, we spoke about that. You need to look at that trial experience from a sort of subjective third-party view. Watch people use your product. Watch them dwell on a certain function and then go, oh, this is what I did. And then same thing, get on call with them. Let them ride, right? Let them drive their trial experience. Watch them in the app. And I say this all the time. Like I'll do a couple of demos a week, and the biggest, the smile I get on my face when I hear people exclaim, "Oh, this is amazing! Oh, this is exactly what I wanted!" Right? That's when I mark that part of the call and say, okay, this portion of that user experience, when this client did that, they love that. Let's show others that, right? Let's bring that out. I demoed the Slack integration to someone the other week. They go, oh my God, I can get Baremetrics graphs inside Slack. I'm like, yeah, absolutely you can. So what did we do, right? We did a whole revitalized documentation and marketing push around our Slack integration to let others know that that's a big bit of value. So again, one of those things that's just going to happen over time. I think in general, my sentiment towards this founder is, one, well done on launching, great grind. Second, absolutely admire the focus you have on the individual client experience and the individual clients you have at the moment. 3, just be patient. Collect data, continue to watch the clients, engage with those clients one-on-one, understand that it takes time now that you've built the product to actually generate a funnel, generate demand, and start to satisfy that demand. So don't get hung up on completing the onboarding that you expect them to complete. Start to watch how they're interacting with your trial experience. Start to talk to them, get feedback, ask for feedback, and then continue to build your onboarding around that, right? Don't be wedded to this idea of onboarding is X because you think it should be. Yeah. So just a quick survey of the comments. Did you test market demand with an MVP before launch? We started developing for internal use only, but then saw an opportunity. We didn't tap into the demand or generated prior to building. So they've sort of identified, similar to our other founders in our space, that they've had an internal use, then they pushed it to market because they saw some others. Another one here, a couple of dot points. I think launch events are overvalued. Work on channels to generate a steady flow of visitors. Yep. You need to be where your clients are. You're working from signups, so I'm guessing you're doing B2C. I think the process you have won't really work in the beginning. Bit more B2B, but definitely early stage B2C. Ideally, you handpick clients that seem enthusiastic, and from that point, do a lot of hand holding and being on calls with them. That creates buy-in, which keeps them engaged, and you'll have much better feedback. Create the bond first, then focus on the product. Yeah, similar to what you said there, like you do need to be very intimately engaged with those first few clients, whether it's B2B or B2C. Emails aren't great to get follow-up. We all agree with that. You need a call. You need to be on calls, on Zooms, whatever it might be. Your volumes are too low. In the end, there are a lot of reasons that you are out of your hands that will make users quit sign up. Maybe their spouse called, maybe the door dashes at the door. You don't know. Only way to deal this is increased volumes. We said that, right? Like I said, that the intense focus on the client isn't necessarily shared on the other way. Yeah, volume, and then the OP has actually responded to hear a few things. It is pure B2B. There we go. Recruiters and agencies. So absolutely hand holding. Absolutely. Be in their pocket for 24 hours. Calls better than emails. Yes. You're not being pushy. You're being, right there. Volume point is brutal but fair. 6 signups felt like Christmas, but it's statistically meaningless. Yeah, that's what I said, right? You need to look beyond that first top of funnel. Good. Recommending follow-ups. Yep. You finally realize we live in this attention economy in a cluster world. I would go back and build parallel systems to gamify onboarding and retention. That's a good point. Yeah, I think there's a bit of that reflection there for him as well, right? The other thing is the last point here in one of the comments was developed for internal use doesn't necessarily mean external validation, in that where you have built something to satisfy that internal problem set and you believe it is to be shared by others, and then you push it wider and expect others to jump on board. And I think that's just the problem with the onboarding phase as well, is that you believe by the way you use the product internally, these are the steps you should take to understand it fully. When you push it into a different ecosystem, into a different environment, and it's not utilized the same way, then that onboarding is broken because the people won't use it the same way. I'd suggest that internal results don't necessarily match external expectations when it comes to building a tool. Submagic, perfect example of where that worked, right? Because what we saw there was that they built the product for personal use in the way that they were managing. David was managing his YouTube videos and editing and running that. And then his users his local ecosystem saw the value as well. There was a very clear cut use case that was definitely shared by a wider network of YouTube users, not necessarily an organization, which is where organizational sort of boundaries and limitations will affect the way you utilize a tool. So I think the difference in a B2C versus a B2B pitch here is certainly known, just based on how B2B can be starkly different even in the same industry.
I think it's also part of the thing of like Submagic was so like niched. It's like for video editors or they're editing videos for some purpose, and like you have a big video because it's from YouTube or
Yeah.
whatever, and you need these chunks, right? But like, for example, if you think of a tool like Notion, for example, it's very like you can do a bunch of different things with it, and there's a bunch of people that use it for very different use cases.
Yeah.
But I think they've done a good job of like templatizing and like encouraging people to like share their
Right.
templates so that you can see those different use cases like very well.
Yeah,
I think.
exactly. Yeah. And again, like B2C, a little bit different to B2B in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
But certainly valid. Yeah. We
Mm-hmm.
spent a lot of time on that one. So we'll move on quickly to the next one. But this one's in a startups community. Hot
It was
take.
interesting though.
Yeah, very interesting. And again, it's like off the back of a launch, and I think it speaks really well to that founder's fury of trying to make it work for everyone, right?
Yeah.
Startups community, hot take. The first 10 users of any startup are just people who liked the founder. I was watching this Source VC podcast on Masters Union YouTube channel. They said something like the founder's passion attracts the first alpha users plus early employees. And honestly, I've never seen an early stage startup where the product was the reason people showed up. It's always the founder, their energy there. So tell me if you've ever joined an early startup or tested an early app, did you do it for the product or because the founder was your friend? This is exact the example we just used, right? Of David building Submagic, in that
Mm-hmm.
he built a product that other YouTube users asked about. So he was starting to produce really cool content. I think his original content was around cars, when he was doing a car reviews, and he would hire out a really nice car, drive around and talk in the car. And he then built the captioning tool, and people started asking him, "Hey, who does your captions? How have you managed to do this? What editing tool are you using?" Right? And he's like, "Oh, it's this thing I built myself, and here it is." And he even mentions in our Founders Chat podcast that his first few employees were users. And so I don't necessarily agree
Right.
with this sentiment that they liked the founder, that these people loved the product,
Mm-hmm.
right? They loved the outcome they were getting, and they were able to then see the value of selling that on and going from there. And if you see, there's actually a lot of apps out there now, Baremetrics is one of them, that has an affiliate network, right? We have users of the platform that are working with clients on their side and want to promote. And so they're incentivized to send out become an affiliate and be compensated for pushing and selling Baremetrics to other users. So I think in some cases, and maybe in a very sort of Silicon Valley focused manner, sure, the founder's passion and the founder's voice will bring in that those people that want to work for that person, that individual, regardless of the platform. But I don't think this is necessarily true for the wider SaaS ecosystem. I think people resonate with the product more and are happy to build the product where they're working with a good founder, as opposed to the platform itself. So, looking through the comments, some people have said here, we put an app into the App Store because the founding team wanted to test it, and in 3 days we had 10K users. That was like catching lightning in a bottle. They didn't spend any money on marketing. They hit 1 million users in the first year. Just a really well-built media player. Okay. Yeah, that's one. If you're talking about investors, VC or co-founders, I would 100% agree, but users, not necessarily. Yeah, so that's a true point there, right? Like when you have built, sold, and exited a successful SaaS company, you then have like reputational weight behind you. You only need to look at a few of the Icarus stories in Silicon Valley over the last decade. WeWork, right? Theranos, it's a brilliant one. These sort of enigmatic, engaging founders that have this aura around what they're building, and people buy into that to their own detriment. This wasn't the user base. Like the users of Theranos knew that it wasn't what they were promised, but the investors were blind to that, and they kept piling in money. Same with WeWork, right? The users there enjoyed the freedom of these shared spaces and these great real estate opportunities, but the employees inside, they weren't incentivized by the founder at all. So I think this point in particular is probably the most prudent, is that investors, VCs or co-founders, yes, they might sign on to the story of the founder and the aura of the founder, but users, I don't think necessarily. The people that give the product feedback regardless of what the founder's going to be.
I just think the actual hot take is like first time founders and investors. Like that is where they buy into the founder, because there's nothing really tangible else to tie them. There's users, maybe, But like, even if it's like a very early stage, they're really, really buying into the founder and the story and what they say they're gonna do,
Yeah.
you know? But
Yeah, and I think one of the
I
commenters
think
here
that's
sort
the
of
actual
one of the
take.
commenters here adds sort of a validating point that the OP might be misunderstanding the quote. The founder's passion attracts the first users and early employees doesn't necessarily translate to the first users are people's friends or people that like the founder. It's that the energy and the passion that the founder has for their product is such that you can get people to buy into that vision and that idea that this is going to solve the world. I think this is more prevalent than ever in the Instagram space, right? Where you will have these people that just have this passion for a product that they're shilling, for want of a better term, because they're incentivized to sell it, right? And so I think that's very different to liking the founder, is that you can resonate with someone's energy and be like, oh my God, I can't believe they're getting these amazing results from this vibrating chair infrared light source thing, right? And just because the way they talk about it, and you see it in the way people sit down in podcasts and talk about their opinions on certain fitness protocols or fitness systems. You've always got to dig deeper and understand there's probably something behind that or an incentive behind that. So, yeah, I think this commenter, I think, is probably the one that I align with the most here, is that the founder's passion does attract first users and early employees, but not because they're friends or family, but because they can buy into that idea of the vision, the execution, and that sort of stuff. So, yeah, interesting one. I don't think it's the first 10 users are just people who like the founder in that sense that they're friends and family. I think that they can get them on board. And hats off to the founder for being able to mobilize that sort of culture. Yeah. Okay. Here is a tried and true question that we have had several times in different iterations in our SaaS community. How do you decide what not to build? We ask this on all our founders chats as well, right? It's like you get to a point where you've scaled to a certain size. What is it you chose not to do to help you get there? And the general sentiment here across the board is constraints can just be just as liberating as opportunities, in that you need to have very good and deliberate guardrails set up with when you're starting at that build to say that you're not going to necessarily move to enterprise because your investors want that, or potential investors want that. You're going to focus on solving the problem for your ICP that you've identified and validated in your early go-to-market. But let's see what this individual here has to say. So I'm realizing that the real challenge isn't having feature ideas, it's killing 90% of them. For those already running a SaaS, how do you choose which features to ignore, delay, or permanently reject? Do you rely on customer interviews, retention cohorts, strict impact versus effort model, product vision, competitive pressure, revenue potential, or is it more about intuition? Some founders say the product took off only after they started saying no, way more often, even to good ideas. Curious how you filter the noise and decide when not to spend your dev cycles. Okay, so two things here. One, this used to be a sentiment that was wedded in follow the data, sell to build, right? At the end of every sales conversation, introduce the idea of a new feature and get some feedback on it. And then you can figure out which ones you need to cut away versus which ones you should pursue, because that's the voice of the customer. The flip side of that now that we've discussed in the last 12 to 24 months, it has become cheaper than ever to quickly build new feature ideas and see what resonates. So I would suggest that if you were to ask me this a while ago, I would have said, get your sales team to ask the question of your client base, of your prospect base, pitch those new ideas that are in the roadmap or in the sphere of possible, and see what comes back before you reject the ones that don't get any traction. Versus, which is sort of the customer interview space, I think, versus now, if you have a fringe idea that you think may work, build it and then see what people do with it, right? And the cost of that build and the effort of that build is such that the impact versus effort, right? The effort is so minimal that the impact could be marginal and you'll still release it because you can. So I agree with the sentiment. You have to know what to say no to. And that's really going to come down to, I think now, is the benefit you're trying to push out there, not so much the feature or the resources behind the feature build. Is the benefit misaligned with your ICP? Is the target market now shifting to the point where you won't be able to satisfy? And the example I have from last week talking with, I don't think it was Klaus, I actually think it was Curtis from Mustard Hub.
Curtis.
He spoke about the potential investors coming along and pushing him to move into enterprise and then raise capital. And the their play in that employee engagement and reward market, they didn't want to go enterprise. They never had that as part of their vision, right? So his focus was purely on that sort of middle SMB, B2B space, and he was happy with that. And they were doing well in that space. And so I'd suggest there that the other thing of what not to build is if it goes against your overall vision or ethos or mission for your product, then don't feel pressured to build it, even though it might increase revenue in the short term or it might attract investments outside of it. If you don't believe that you can continue to support that ICP or that sector of your ICP, then don't do it, right? So that's not even really about a particular feature. Right. That's saying no to a particular direction, a strategic direction as well. So yeah, I think overall sentiment there, advising any startups that I work with is validate the idea with your customer base, whether that's through sales conversations and seeding that idea, or if you're in a situation where your developer cycles have fundamentally increased velocity and decreased cost, where we are now using AI tools, then build it, do a quick marketing campaign, push it out to market, see what happens, put a product announcement out there. Hey, try our new beta feature of this. And if it doesn't work, pull it down, just move it away, right? We can do that now. So I agree, you need to have a clear idea of what not to build. But I also believe we're in a situation now where that might necessarily be not what not to build, but what not to continue to build, right? Put out the ideas, seed it, see if it gains traction, take it down if not. A small business community, we've been paying a contractor $1.5K for 10 months after he stopped working for us. What? Okay. This is outside of our
I chose this one as a what?
I said it's just outside of our normal wheelhouse of SaaS discussion, but I guess it's more of a business question.
Yeah, no, I was just like, how does this even happen?
Okay, that's probably a good. Well, let's have that as the guiding sentiment then, because this is probably a thing I've seen a couple of times, particularly during DD due diligence on a
really?
potential acquisition. Yeah, so this is interesting. Yeah. So I was reconciling our books this weekend because our finance person quit, and I noticed we've been sending monthly payments to a freelance designer who hasn't delivered anything since January. I messaged him asking if we hired him for something recently. We've forgotten because you received monthly payments. He said no. I finished that logo project in January. He assumed that we just wanted to keep him on retainer, so he didn't say anything. First of all, retainer is crazy. He just kept getting paid because nobody turned off the recurring payment. I checked with the team. Everyone thought someone else was still using him for stuff. We're 24 people. How does this even happen? Apparently, he's been receiving $1.5K every month for 10 months and figured we knew what we were doing. The worst part is he's a nice guy. I offered to pay some of it back, but like legally, that's our mess, not his. We just gave him $15K for nothing. How do you deal with this if you don't have a proper financial team set up? Yeah, the first commenter here, pay me 1.5K every month and I'll make sure you're not paying anyone else that your team's not meant to. This is not just a contractor expense thing. This is like subscription cost. This is a general financial health. It is hard for early stage founders to have a grasp on not only product roadmap, but feature releases, marketing, operations, finances. It can become a lot very quickly. And I appreciate that not all founders have a business background or have a sense of what it takes to actually run a SaaS company. And we see this playing out now in the ability to generate an AI-driven SaaS company that gets a shiny product out there for general usage, but the fundamentals aren't being met in the back end. This idea that you're paying, whether it's paying a contractor or whether you have an outstanding subscription to a tool your team no longer uses, I would treat this in the same way. General managers, CEOs, director of operations, COOs should have a part of their calendar either once a month or once a quarter to go through expenses, whether that is with a CFO or without a CFO. That should be a part of your general business leadership protocol, is to have a time set aside to review expenses. I don't care whether you're backed with VC capital and you can afford to have a high burn rate. These are the kind of expenses that bite you in the ass and not in a position to adjust quick enough before you run out of cash. It's generally only when you start to look at your bank balance decreasing month to month, your MRR not growing, your churn increasing, and you go, oh, we need to save some money fast. Then you go back through and realize you've been paying for a video platform that you haven't used in 6 months, a CRM that you migrated away from 12 months ago, a infrastructure monitoring tool that monitors a database that's no longer active. Things like that that you didn't care you were spending on at that time, but now that you have a need to care, it's too late to actually move the needle effectively, right? This is the same in contractors. I can see there's a bit of white noise here with like the finance team moving out, team members assuming other team members are using this contractor for whatever reason. But this is one of those things you need to have time set aside to review your expenses, review your revenue, and make sure that everything is where you expect it to be. We run an internal subscription review every quarter where we look through additional tools that we've onboarded in the last quarter and said, are we still using them effectively? Are we still using the tier of that tool that we need effectively, right? The developers, they've been experimenting with a whole host of AI developer tools. Which one are they going to choose? Are they still using the other ones? It might only be $20 a month, right? But then it becomes $20 a month per dev per quarter. It starts to add up, right? So I'd suggest that this is poor internal controls and poor internal review processes that should be there, whether you're a financially focused CEO or not. It is something you need to have in there. And it's not, this is a thing. People think, oh, finance is not my strong suit. I can't play in that space. This isn't finances, right? This is operations, which is where you should absolutely be. You're looking at a list of vendors and a list of costs and saying, do I need that cost anymore? There's nothing financial about it, right? These are business decisions. So it's not a huge hurdle to have that as part of your monthly or quarterly processes. And on the contractor side, this is not their fault at all. If I was a contractor and I was getting a monthly payment for work to be done when as needed, and I was on demand and I didn't have a fixed project schedule or a fixed project contract, absolutely let me know when you need me, right? Yes, you're going to pay me to still be available to you when and if you need me. So I don't think it's the contractor's fault at all. Some of the comments, yes, someone dedicated to tracking vendors and contracts. Yes, not the contractor's fault. Company sloppy in managing their money, absolutely. Congratulations on having a business where you can lose 1.5K per month and not notice it. That's what I mean. Like you get to a point where you go, shit, we were losing 1.5K. Like, yeah, review that spending. Never set up any vendor as recurring. That's the first mistake. Even if they're going to get a recurring paycheck, don't set it up that way. Set it up so you have to manually produce it every month. That's fair, particularly where you want to be prudent on how your money is being spent. We actually utilize virtual cards in Mercury where the card is set to a vendor and is also set to expire so that we know that if we have, for whatever reason, don't get around to reviewing that expense, at minimum, it will stop working after 12 months for an annual contract. So we need to manually go in there and renew that card in order to renew that service, which is a good way to do it as well. Should have been caught. The expense was seen by numerous people. Good. Yeah, and no one actually had the idea that they should have been validating the work that was getting done for that cost. Yeah, I think the sentiment overall is just get a process in place. And I think that would be one advice I have for every founder from the start, because it's the same way you start to create your own plans and subscriptions in Stripe. Be clean from the start. So have an idea of where your expenses are, have a ruthless focus on your burn rate, your runway, your expenses, regardless of whether you're taking venture capital or whether you're bootstrapping, particularly if you're bootstrapping. Continually review expenses and justify those expenses and contractor expenses as well. Yeah. All right, we've got a couple more minutes. I do have to jump on the hour too, so we'll punch through this one real quick. How set a price for a first pilot project? Right, poor grammar there, but we'll move past that. Today, I'll have a call with a lead to discuss about the pilot project who I initially approached to interview in order to validate my business idea, and he loved it and were very interested in my solution. Although I don't have an MVP, only a landing page. I was transparent about it. He's interested in running a pilot together. I previously stated I'm not selling anything, so I don't have the SaaS yet. I've been bootstrapping for over a year, and this is my second startup. Things got serious very quick. I want to ask if they have any budget for that. I don't even understand this question. Does it make sense? No. If so, how much should I ask for? The company's based in Berlin, Germany, and a commercial real estate company with over 1 million. Thanks so much in advance. Okay, so I think what this individual is saying, I've got a call with a lead to discuss about the pilot project who I initially approached to interview in order to validate my business idea, and he loved it. Okay, so I think he's looking for a co-founder maybe, or like an initial pilot client. This person's pushed an idea onto a landing page.
Yes.
Someone's gone to the landing page and said, yes, I like that idea. let's talk.
Yes.
They're talking.
Yeah.
The person's saying it is just an idea. There's no product behind it. But hey, if you want to talk about it more, let's do it. This person's trying to get paid for something they don't have yet, but the thing they don't have yet is what they want to build for this particular lead. Look, it's not a bad way of doing it. It's going to validate your idea. How you price it, I don't know, because you need more context around the he talks about real estate company or commercial real estate. I think you need to go to like a rate with them and say, what's the budget for something like this and how can you build it? I assume this founder's technical, so they're going to build the product for them. You really would treat yourself like a contractor, I guess, to be able to build it out for this initial pilot and then go from there. And hey, it may end up being that you have an investment partner to continue to go to market with. They have priority build, but it's a tough one. If the general question is how do I set a price for a pilot project, then it's really going to come down to what the client's willing to pay and how you can assess that willingness to pay based on what you've got there. Yeah. I really want to move on to the quick follow-ups and fast responses because this is one that we have as part of our DNA in the community, B2B sales forecasting. The sentiment here, it's not even a question, it's a statement. Quick follow-ups and fast responses to customer requests are crucial for sales success. Couldn't agree more. People make decisions when they're assessing multiple vendors, not only on price, not only on feature set, but support. And support is a cornerstone of Baremetrics strategy and Baremetrics ethos. And as a result, we actually have a internal SLA, service level agreement, master service agreement, whatever you want to call it, KPI, sub 5-minute response time during business hours, right? And I am ruthless with that. We have that on our KPI tracker. We have that on our funnel report. We have that in our intercom reports, sub 5-minute response times during business hours for intercom and for sales related emails. And the reason is because if you're in a competitive market with multiple vendors and competitors in your space, and you have people assessing your tools, then just being in their inbox quickly is going to raise you to their level of trust and their level of expectation before they've even seen your platform, right? And we get that sometimes where people are signing for a trial and they say, hey, I was able to book a call with you guys weeks before I even got a response from competitor X, right? That's what I love to hear. Mm-hmm. When I see an intercom and go, oh, I can't believe you guys responded straight away. Like, I love that. That's what I want to hear. And not only is it, people need to get wrapped up in this idea that you need to resolve the query in the call. No, you need to acknowledge. Mm-hmm. Clients just want to be acknowledged, right? And that, again, that's a big part of the work I do with our support team is that I don't need you to solve the problem in that moment in time. I just need you to be present in that moment of time so they know that we're there, right? Collect the information, collect the request, let them know when you're going to follow up with them. The particular case this person calls out with in one of the comments around a particular vendor, we don't need to name them, but they're in their space. They were having a call with the AE, and they mentioned that they were pretty well at the point of deciding that this platform was for them. The goal of the final call was just to wrap up the technical validation and a couple of outstanding matters and then move forward with the contract. This individual, this lead, this prospect was expecting a DocuSign by the end of the day to sign away and sign up for their service, right? They finished their call at 10:30 a.m. They expected a fast follow-up, midday nothing, 2 p.m. nothing, 4 p.m. nothing. And as the hours ticked by, they started to close down the tab. So they were waiting for these technical responses to the questions. Now, here's where I think is a great example of the prospect being in that state of ready to buy and the company not appreciating that they didn't need to answer the technical questions. They just needed to acknowledge the status of that request. And so my guidance to my support, if I saw this engagement happen, I would be like, hey, just so you know, you had this call in mid-morning, right? By close of business, this client was still open. The ball was in our court. It should have been given back to them in that we should have said, hey, Brian, I acknowledge that. Thanks so much for the call this morning. We left the call with these outstanding items. I'm not going to be able to get to them today. I've talked to my devs. They've told me that this particular item will take at least 24 hours to resolve. What I can do is get back to you first thing tomorrow and give you an update on where we're at. Just that, right? There's no resolution there, but there is a sense of, okay, they've got it under control. Would have absolutely alleviated any stress around, is this going to close? Am I going to get a contract where it was? So this key point, I think, is a good example of that, is that you don't need to answer the question. The client just needs to have a timeline to know that you've got control of that in relationship and that you're going to move back for it. So, Absolutely agree with the sentiment. Quick follow-ups and fast responses are crucial for sales success, regardless of your platform. Support should be a cornerstone of your brand, of your strategy. And B2B response time, sub 5 minutes in business hours, will always be part of our DNA and continue to be part of our overall, value proposition to our clients. This is what you can expect from us, whether you're a trialer or whether you are a long-term client with a high ASP, high LTV. That wraps up our Q&A for the week. Good couple of questions there. Some of the ones we see all the time. How do you get people to complete onboarding? How do you decide what not to build? Rare. And then a few little weird ones about expenses, managing expenses, staying on top of them. And then the final one there, absolutely agree with. Quick follow-ups, crucial to client success and support. Yep.
I definitely chose that expenses one as a goofs and a gaffs one.
Oh yeah, that's something that's needs to be addressed across the board for sure. Yeah. Cool. All right, I'm going to jump, Andrew. I got another call I need to get to. But yeah, good one this week.
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds
good. Let's wrap up.
Thanks.